You've spoken about energy independence, you've spoken about police independence. Are you willing to give the people of the Western Cape a referendum on Cape independence so that they can make the choice whether they want to be part of South Africa or not? As the Premier of the Western Cape, are you willing to give that to them?
I'm going to ask you a question. Will a referendum, 100% referendum, mean that we get independent?
No. If you support it, yes. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? No, what's going to happen? If the majority of Western Cape votes to secede from South Africa, is the army going to stop that? What army is there? No, you wanted to start this. Go.
I know that it sounds very nice that if I had a referendum today to say I want full police power, it would need a constitutional change of South Africa. If I wanted independence, it would need a constitutional change of South Africa. We are a new democracy, and no global court would give us that.
But Bekele has denied it. He still did to go jump up.
He's denied it. But so I want to say to you that.
So what's the alternative? What's he going to do?
So I've got to say to you, I need to make a decision every day of my life. Am I going to give a lot of energy to independence of the Western Cape, which I know it's not a referendum that gives you that answer. A referendum is an indication from your population. The constitutional change has to take place in your National Assembly. The National Assembly is never going to give it to you.
But don't they deserve to voice their opinion?
Of course they can voice their opinion every single
But give it to them. Give it to them.
Every single day they can. And so I put my energy into things that I know need to change right now. And that's why I'll spend every single day on safety and energy. And that's where my focus is. We'll have to see what comes out of the next election, because then we'll change our focus on to the next question.
But then you're going to have 100 states just in the Western Cape. And that's exactly the opposite of how I think the world should go, because the world is about nationalism, about building walls, about segregation, about populism. And that's why the world is becoming a worse place, not a better place.
Perhaps you should just explain that concept. It will be 100 nations in the Western Cape because of the water regulations.
No, because if you say, anybody who wanted to be independent could become independent, right?
Yeah.
If everybody in Nasa said, no, but we want independence, so now Nasa would become an independent state, and then Hout Bay would become an independent state, and then Cape Town would say, well, no, we don't actually want the northern suburbs, so we only want the southern suburbs, or we only want the tax-paying side. I mean, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And so it's exactly the same thing about Brexit. And now go and speak to the UK. They want to go back in again, and Europe is saying, no, we don't want you.
Well, that's your opinion. They want to go back in. And
I promise you, you go to another vote, I promise you they'll want back in.
Okay. I want to ask you about the Ramaphosa announcing a state of disaster with the electricity question. We've been to the SONA, the State of the Nation. We interviewed people there. A person like Willem Kosina Glabisa, from the leader of the IFP. He says, what's next? I mean, a minister put toilets, a minister... I mean, is this... What do we expect? I mean, it can't go on like this. What would you say to this? A state of disaster on electricity.
Okay, so electricity is an emergency, right? It needs absolute urgent focus. That's what it needs. It needs the regulations around a disaster focused on energy to say, how do we procure energy quickly? How do we get rid of all the rules and the red tape so that we can actually fix the problem? Because, I mean, the unemployment linked to it could blow the whole country up. So it makes sense to say we want to declare an energy disaster, we want to focus on it, and we want to fix it. But of course, he announces the disaster. It takes him 17 days to find even a regulatory environment. And whether that's effective or not, I don't know yet. I mean, we're busy having a look at it. Is this effective enough to put quick energy in place? I don't know yet. But it has to be urgency. So, yeah, whether it's a disaster, whatever he's going to announce has been delayed again on new ministers, or quite frankly, the ANC are messed and they need to be removed.
And Andre de Ruyter has warned you that you have to become energy independent in the Western Cape. When you see that happening, what's the process there involved?
So we've put a plan together. We put it, the nuts and bolts of it, but the broad vision is by 2035 we want to be independent of Eskom, or the ability our target is 5,700 megawatts. But of course, our immediate target is a 750 megawatts in the next 18 months, because that will start to mitigate levels of load shedding. And hopefully, actually in the next 6 months or so, how do we get 1 or 2 towns in this province? Because of course, a 10 megawatt or a 20 megawatt town is going to be easier to actually find off-the-grid solutions for them. And so we've really got to push hard to find different solutions. And of course, the big city is Cape Town. And I think there's some really good plans coming in already. You can see 2 levels mitigated now, 200 megawatts in the process right now. That's probably 18 months away from actually implementing. Yeah, so hopefully in 18 months to 2 years' time, we are on 4 levels of load shedding mitigation.
And is the Western Cape ready for a national blackout?
Yes, our disaster team tell me that we're the only province with a blackout plan, and I know that Eskom's got a blackout plan, but what's South Africa's blackout plan? Of course, we've got our own power plants that get ring fenced as soon as you get to that stage, because you don't want the whole country going out. Then it'll take weeks to get going again. But it's quite scary. A blackout is scary. I mean, within days you're going to start seeing, you're going to have police moving in and security moving in.
Many of your leaders, the leaders of your party, the Democratic Alliance, like Gordon Neil Lewis, Helen Zille, John Steenhuisen, have talked about an ANC-DA coalition. Do you support that idea? With the good side of the ANC, as they would
Is
call
there a good side of the ANC? Me, I think we need to get the ANC below 30%. We need to vote them out, and we need to get as much consolidation of opposition vote to run a country, because we've got to fix this country.
The national leadership says we're going into coalition with the ANC in 2024, the Democratic Alliance. And they say there's certain conditions that they would impose on the Western Cape. Would you allow that to happen?
No, I'm going for 58% in the Western Cape. I want a majority DA government.
58. Okay. Currently you're at 51.
On the polls.
Yeah.
But I got 55 last time.
Okay. So, in the event that you fall below 50%, or if there's an ANC-DA coalition...
If I fall below 50%, then I have to leave, right? Because the voters don't want it.
Really? So you're saying now if the vote falls below 50%, you're going to resign?
I'll have to.
Okay. Well, there we have it. Thank you, Alan.
Cool.